Welcome to Weekly Talkback. I'm Kevin Beers.
And I'm David Whitten.
And this is the show where we get to talk to Pastor Dave about his message Sunday morning, yesterday in this case, which was October 15th, 2023. The name or the title of the message was, I Pledge Myself to Thee. And you start off with the passage from Ruth, where Ruth vows to her mother-in-law that she will never leave her, and the great lengths that she's willing to let God punish her if she doesn't stick to the vow. So the first point I want to bring up, one of the things that you mentioned is that at the time that Ruth was written, racial purity was something that was really strongly considered,
Emphasized or
emphasized,
right.
And what I got from it, and what I understand too, is that it was important to stress it within Ruth because David was in his lineage was a Moabite woman, which the Moabites were hated by the Jews.
Exactly.
So now we see that there. What do you think the purpose of that, of really pointing that out, was at the time?
Yeah, okay, so let's just, timeline-wise, let's just make sure we understand what we're doing. The book of Ruth takes place during the time of Judges, which is between 1200 BC and 1000 BC, so between Moses and David's time. That's when the Ruth took place, that's when she lived, and so on and so forth. But the story of Ruth was written after the people came back from exile.
Okay.
And Ezra and Nehemiah, which are two books in the Old Testament, talk about this time when they're returning, they're rebuilding the wall, they're rebuilding the temple and Jerusalem and so on and so forth. In there, Nehemiah started stressing that they're bringing impurity back to Jerusalem by marrying these Babylon women, and the encouragement, I don't know if it was a commandment, I'd have to look back and see, but they were stressing that you should send them back, send those Babylonian wives back, because they were concerned about racial purity. And so the writer or writers, or whoever it was that wrote the book of Ruth, wanted to make and stress the point that by doing so, you overlook the fact that King David himself had impure racial lineage in his own background, stressing the point that his great-grandmother was a Moabite, and I would think that would be then undermining his whole idea of racial purity. And, put that out, there's no such thing, it shouldn't matter, it's not significant.
Okay.
Does that make sense? I mean, I don't know if that's where you wanted me to go with that question.
No, I didn't have any particular place to go, but if you look at a political landscape, someone trying to control what's going on, and then saying, well, if you're going to control that, then we basically have to eliminate David and his lineage because he comes from this impure lineage. So therefore, he either can't be king, or we have to just eliminate everybody in his lineage. And so on the political landscape, that's a real rebellious move.
Well, it basically would suggest that you delegitimize David. And of course, he was the most wonderful king of all, and no Jewish person would ever, do that. And so it does kind of compound the confusion. Okay, so what is all this about? And I think the book of Ruth, whether that was an intentional part or not, it certainly helps us to realize that whole push towards racial purity is a no-go place.
Right. And then when we go into the New Testament and we get Jesus' lineage, and I believe when it comes to the great-grandmother, it really is stressed. She was a Moabite. It spells it out. A Moabite in the lineage of Jesus. Yeah. And I believe the Moabites were still hated at that point in time.
Well, I think so. And I'm not sure what I was going to say. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, that's all. That's what I was
Yeah.
finishing up. So basically, there's all there's a lot going on there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is moving on to the next topic here. So this is something that you don't know about me, but when Barbara and I got married, we actually used this passage in our wedding.
It's a perfect one.
Yes.
It really is.
And as a matter of fact, there was even a song sung during the service with this passage in it.
With the words, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So because, we took those vows extremely seriously, and we still do. I mean, we've been married, I don't know, I don't know. So a lot of years.
Barbara, don't watch this, please.
So don't worry, she doesn't. So it's, but it like 30. I guess we're coming up on 37 this year. So, but we took that really seriously, and this passage really spelled out what we were thinking at the time.
Yeah, you need to reiterate or reread that passage so that the viewers know. I mean, we read 17 verses in Ruth, but the particular passage you're talking about, maybe it would be good to reread it.
Wherever you go, I will go, and wherever you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people. Your God will be my God. Wherever you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord do this to me, and more so, if even death separates me from you.
And we took it that seriously,
Yeah,
as a matter of fact.
That's a wonderful oath.
So now, that leads me right into this whole message was about loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
And in our culture today, we see that over 50% of marriages end in divorce. There was even a TV show called The Starter Wife, which is this whole concept of you get married to the first woman just to try it out before you end up with before you end up with the wife that you should end up with.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, there's this whole cultural idea that marriage is for as long as it feels okay.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing even more where, because of the way the laws are written in this country, that men don't want to get married. Mm-hmm. We're actually finding more and more men not even entering the dating pool because what's the upside for them? If they get married, 80% of the divorces are initiated by the wife. She can cheat and leave her husband and still get half of everything. Like, there is no advantage to a man, speaking from a cultural standpoint, for a man to get married. So why it would make sense that a lot of men would then leave the dating pool, like, I don't even want to get involved anymore.
Yeah. To me, it's a sad thing. Not only the institution of marriage, particularly in the United States, it's not respected anymore and is not really followed through. How many people nowadays live together, cohabitate together for so many years and either break up or maybe go on to get married? But how many have cohabitated, bought a house together, started having children, and then they split up because it's easy to do because it's not really a marriage. They just go their separate ways. The mother usually then finds herself with the children and no help or support from the father, often.
Right. And yet, the majority of marriages are initiated by the wife, who ends up with the children not getting the support from the husband.
You mean the majority of breakups in marriage? Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, are initiated by the wife. Mm-hmm. So she's leaving the husband, trying to take half of everything, along with child support. But then, I mean, there's a lot of situations out there.
Yeah.
But the thing is, our entire culture has moved toward favoring one party over the other, and is now where a lot of laws were written to promote marriage and having children. Now the laws are being written to actually don't get married, don't have children. Well, actually, there's some prompting on having children because there's more money involved somehow. Like, our entire culture is just destroying marriage overall.
Yeah, it's true, and when same-sex marriage became legal, I only had really one issue with that, and the issue that I had with that was the term marriage.
Okay.
Because I truly did, and this shows my conservative side, but I truly felt like the way it was biblically defined, and marriage actually is biblically defined, that's where the word originates from, it's between a man and a woman. I support full rights for anything else, civil unions or whatever you want to call them, but I took issue that they wanted to use the term marriage. I don't know. That's probably straying from our theme, but I had to mention that.
Yeah, but but at the same time, and then we see actually the divorce rate in same-sex marriage is actually higher.
Are they? Is it?
Than heterosexual marriage. So, I mean that, but it all comes down to this whole loyalty idea.
Right.
There seems to be like loyalty. I don't know how. When it comes to marriage, it seems as though it's as long as it's good for me, I'll be loyal.
Yeah.
And actually, there's a lot. If you watch different podcasts, I watch a lot of podcasts, and a lot of them are talking about, like, yes, I want to get married, but like, for instance, you have to earn me. Like, I'm not going to give you anything unless you earn it.
Yeah.
And then now it becomes completely transactional. It's no longer, there's no longer love involved. I mean, obviously there is, but that is not the overarching.
Well,
premise.
and it's a different kind of love than the love that God talks about in the Bible.
Right.
It's love it's all about me kind of love, my love, how I feel about it. It's not a love that is in the interest of someone else. It's in your own interest.
Right.
The relationship. Yeah, I hear you. I think the ideology now of the term love has gotten to the point where, if you can satisfy me, if you can love me to the point where I feel good about our relationship, then that's what I want. But in return, yeah, it's really love about what's in it for me.
Right. Now, when Barbara and I went through premarital counseling, we talked, what our premarital counseling was about were the 5 stages of marriage. And that first one being infatuation, and which is the trick of the devil. I say that facetiously, but basically nothing your partner does could ever, it's always so cute and whatever. But then the second stage is like, that thing you do that I thought was so cute before, not so cute anymore.
Irritates me now.
And then the third stage was termed the stage of misery, where you are going to question, why did you even get married at this point? Now, here's the thing. That's when divorce occurs, during that stage. However, if you work your way through it and come out on the other side, the last 2 stages, I don't know what they term them anymore, but that's where the hard part's over. And now you're going to live your life together in I'm not going to call it marital bliss. but you are now solid.
Yeah.
Like marriage is not, there's always ups and downs, no matter what stage you're in, I'm sure. But that stage of misery, that's where it doesn't feel good. And since we now make our decisions based on emotions rather than on logic and reason, like what happened for us is, yes, we're going to hit this stage, but we think back and like, okay, this is what we were taught about how to work through it. And that just doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
Now it's like, I will love you for the rest of my life until I'm not happy anymore. I mean, that's kind of where we're going with that. That kind of loyalty, and you mentioned in your message that loyalty to sports teams. I mean, I root for the Dallas Cowboys. I've been having a rough few decades here,
Yeah, well.
But I'm still loyal to them.
Yeah.
But I'm also loyal in my marriage, and like that's never going to change. So this idea of loyalty, where people are more loyal to things that don't matter than they are to the things that do matter.
Like the illustration, Charmin and Colgate.
Right.
We're more loyal to brands of toothpaste and toilet paper than we are to our marriage or to the things that are important to our pledge of allegiance to God. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely right.
Okay. Well, we're going to wrap it up there. I really want to know what you think about this one. This message hit home for me because I actually have been exploring this topic overall. So we will see you next week with another talkback.
If you hadn't seen the sermon, the link will be below the post. Or however.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me because I left that completely out. Yeah, if you didn't hear Pastor Dave's message yesterday, it is in the link there's a link in the description. Go listen to it. This was a really great message. I recommend it for everybody.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.